What's up, guys? Mr. Antoon here. We're going to talk about chapter 12 of the presidency, and we're probably going to do 12:6 and through 12:8. So this will be the last of the three. This is about power of the people, the public presidency, at least to start. Um, so with this public presidency, guys, the president has this great advantage of going public, and Trump is a master at this, especially with his social media. But he's also a lover of rallies, and we'll talk about that as well. We'll discuss his approval rating, his support for his policy, how he mobilizes the public, especially with the rallies that you're seeing here. And again, this is one of the roles for CEO of our country. It's chief citizen. It's the fact that he's the first citizen, that he's one of us. And that's why he shakes hands with people. He holds babies. He's showing us that he's just like we are, even though it's completely different. It's just kind of like a symbol and a ceremonial position. Again, he's that number one citizen, and you can see them shaking hands, saying hi to the people. Big deal for a lot of fans of the president. Going public, in terms of what their advantages here, and I put Trump with Clinton's, and I think this is Melania. I don't know. I can't tell from that angle, but you could see this with this quote: "Public sentiment is everything. With public sentiment, nothing can fail." So without it, nothing can succeed. So this is what presidents have to do. They have to gather the public's opinion and sentiment in order to use that. Um, they have to build it up in order to get what they want done, especially like, let's say, Trump's wall. He's built it up, but he's done it by fear. He's calling it an invasion from the South. He's saying we have a national emergency. Those are all fear instilling ones instead of gay. And that's why he gathers the public interest, at least those people who want a wall built. And hopefully, you know throughout your studies of history that no walls have kept people out. The Roman walls, Hadrian's Wall, the Great Wall of China, even your neighborhood walls that you live in, your neighbors, they have walls built up around them to keep privacy, which is great, but it's not going to keep people out if they want to get in. So again, I get what he's doing here, but they're going to dig tunnels. They're going to take boats around the Pacific. They're going to do different ways to get into our country. It might slow them down, and that could be your fight. But again, walls don't work in the long run. And again, you could see Obama meeting with my favorite, Lakers team. There's Kobe Bryant. Tragic what happened to him. But again, it's building this public sentiment that Obama loves basketball. He is now hosting the basketball team. Or if you're Trump, you're hosting the national champions Clemson Tigers in January of 2019 with a fast food gala. And he called them 1,000 hamburgers. That was awesome. Anyways, you could see again what they're trying to do. This is kind of how you go public, at least in the nice way from the chief citizen side of it. But notice what it's done to our presidents after the beginning. The first picture on the left of Clinton, and that's when before he started as president, and then when he ended. Bush started, ended. Obama started, ended. You could see the 8 years of stress put on their faces and their hair, especially. Here's President Bush announcing the end of the Iraq War. And the sad part was that, was really cool, he landed on the Air Force carrier, the Abraham Lincoln in San Diego. He landed on it like an Air Force because he was an Air Force reserve. His father fought, George H.W. Bush fought in World War II as a fighter pilot. So he was a National Reserve for Air Force. And he landed and he claimed the war was over. Well, guys, we've been in Iraq since 2003. It's not over. It was just basic combat was over. That's kind of what he was announcing at the time. Let's talk about the approval rating. Obviously, many factors go into this: party affiliation, this honeymoon period we're going to talk about, successes of your policies, even integrity and leadership skills. And then Trump is very famous for the rally events. But let's look at the approval in chief. Ever since the 1950s, with Harry Truman, late 40s to 1950s, you could see their numbers there, including Trump's at the end. I always want to try to include Trump on it because he's our recent president. But you can see kind of what their average was. So look at how high John F. Kennedy was, 70% when he was assassinated. LBJ, 55, Nixon, 49, Ford, 47, and so on. It's not that high of a number. Look at George H.W. Bush, and this man was a one-term president, 61%, but look at the end. Look at how bad it was at the end for him because of our recession we had and that kicked him out. Clinton, 55, George W. Bush, 49. Look at how he tailed off at the end. Obama went from 67 to you can see the lowest point at 40. Trump's been in the 30s and 40s for most of the presidency. He's never broken 50, even though he claims he has. Mainly on average, he has not. You could see after 2 years and 3 months approval ratings, approve and disapprove. And you could see, look at Trump's: approve 34%, 57 disapprove. To me, and again, you can call this my opinion, but I just think it's the way he treats others, how he bashes and he tweets out mean things about people. It's almost like he's a bully in chief to some degree. But again, you guys can take it any way you want. Why do you think his approval rating is not that high? Does he call it the fake news? Does he attack people? I mean, it seems that way. If he just stopped all that stuff, just think about what his approval rating would be. Outside of the coronavirus issue, I don't think he's done much wrong outside of boasting and being mean to that point. If he stopped all that, I think things would change for him. And this is only after 2 years, 3 months, average. Again, you're just seeing different ones. You can stop on any one if you want. This one does not have Trump in it. This one does have Trump. And what the cool part about this one is this is the polarization between the parties. So let's look at Obama's. 81% of Democrats approve of Obama. 14% of Republicans on average approve of him. So this is the difference between that. 87% of Republicans approve of Trump. 6% of Democrats. Look at the widening gap, guys. This is all about partisan. So now what do we do as a result of this is we elect people into office that are polarizing. Further left, further right, and all it's going to do is cause more of it. So we're to blame for a lot of it as well. Something to think about. Highs and lows: 86-22, 64-41. Look at 89. Look at the Bushes: 89 and 86. That's the highest in the last 50, 60 years. But again, you're just seeing that Nixon low 24. Again, obviously Watergate, obviously the recession. And then there's this honeymoon period we have, this phase we call it. And this is this idea that we approve of them for a certain amount of days. And usually it's high after the inauguration. And it drops as time progresses and obviously things come out. Usually it's around 100 days. But I want to show you this statistic. I love this. It says number of months in the presidency with a job approval rating 55% or above, from Harry Truman through George W. Bush. Look at Eisenhower: 41 straight months of 55 or more. Kennedy: 32 months. Johnson: 30. Trump has never been above 55. He's zero. That's just crazy how different it is. You say, well, disrespect for the president. Well, just the way our parties are. Remember what Madison said: factions are no good. We need to stay away from them. So it's just something to think about as you look through all this. Early job approval ratings for presidents. You could see Trump, again, approve, disapprove. These numbers are big. Again, early: 64, 61, 17, 26. Once Obamacare came out, it pissed off a lot of Americans, especially conservatives. Again, free health care, that means it's taxpayer money. That means we're going to be taxed more. And that upsets a lot of people who are conservative. First year job approval averages, Trump at 38, 57, and so on, backwards. This is 6 months. So right, honeymoon period again, 6-month rate. So it's just showing you kind of that honeymoon phase. First year, just different ones I wanted to show you. You guys can look at how you want to look at it. And again, this idea of going public is, here's Clinton supporting and signing a welfare bill, which is going to help out a lot of people. That's what liberals and Democrats want to do as progressives. They want to help out people that can't really help themselves or have a tougher time helping themselves. Policy support. So this is kind of the idea that you could see Trump using social media to get his message across. And it's called this bully pulpit. However you want to look at it. Ronald Reagan here in front of Air Force One. Any vehicle they fly in is called Air Force One, by the way, even though it's helicopter, plane, limo. I know and limos don't fly, but it's that idea, symbolic. So here's Reagan standing in front of the helicopter with the press in front of him. And this is his bully pulpit. He was an actor. He was really good at answering questions, but he used the helicopter, and Trump does the same exact thing. This is really interesting. I want you to watch if you can. They have the motor starting in the background, the helicopter, and it's whirring like they have to get somewhere. And whenever they don't want to question, all they got to do is say, I got to go. I got somewhere to go right now. I got another meeting, or whatever the case is. They'll get out of it really quick. Reagan was a master at it, and Trump does use that. Interesting. So how do they play with the media? Trump is a little different. He's abrasive, whereas Reagan was very soothing. Clinton was good. He was, the media really liked him, and he was impeached as well. Obama, the media loved him. Trump started off calling them fake news because he wants to cut them off and he wants you to go to him instead of to the media, the watchdogs of our politicians. Smart move if you're a conservative, bad move if you're a liberal, because again, it's that idea of where are we getting our truth from. The public is not always receptive to these things. Not everybody's watching this or not interested as much. You guys have your own self-interest. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I love sports. I like playing video games. So those are things that are my self-interest. But at times on big things, you have to pay attention, especially as a gov teacher. There's a lot of current events that happen that involve our class, which is pretty cool. Let's see what else. Obviously, there's biased people. Media can be biased. A lot of people say the left-wing media, they call it fake news. I'm kind of sad this has come out. If someone doesn't agree with your statement, you completely discredit them. That's not a good way of doing things. But again, that's kind of what we're dealing with at this point. Not always a strength on facts. It's kind of gotcha statements. And that's what pisses off a lot of politicians as well. And you can see a cartoon about the bully pulpit here with Trump. To me, his bully pulpit is social media. If they were to take away social media from Trump, I think he would be kind of neutered, like that idea that he won't be able to do as much as he could, and he would complain big time on that. Again, you're just seeing some stuff about how he does stuff or what he's being accused of, distractor in chief. He's got inflammatory tweets, racist rhetoric, political assassinations where he's destroying people. Again, this is kind of what people believe that his presidency is, even though he's considered himself the greatest president. Here's his tweet, the way he tweets. Total number of tweets from 2016. This is per month, guys. I have like 4 tweets to my name, probably. I just have likes. I like the tweets or not like, whatever you call it. But again, it's ramped up here, guys. This is all the impeachment stuff, tweet storms. You've heard of that stuff. And Trump is a master at rallies. He rallied after he became president. He loves, you would call any type of politician a narcissist, but I would put Trump at one of the top ones here. The idea that he loves approval. He loves when you love him. And when you don't, he destroys you. So you could see, again, that whole idea of how they mobilize it. Now, look at the, this is kind of how you would mobilize the public. Look at the apathy among young people and old people. The difference is 65. Look, their apathy is less and less as they get older. You guys, as you get older, from 1972, when you were given the right to vote at 18, again, the apathy is there, and it's hovering around 50s. Look, it's gone up to almost 70 in 2000 when I was 30 years old. Holy smokes, I was apathetic, I guess. And then you could see, again, the differences between those. So really, Congress is supposed to respond to the people, not the president. And again, you can analyze it any way you want to at this point. It's rare that it flips where they don't really listen to the public, because we elect them into office. So if they're not heeding our warning and our cry, we can easily vote them out. That's one of our things to do. But we're not really attentive to a lot of the situation. This is why politics is not really fun to be a part of, because it's really, really negative, and it's just all they do is attack each other. They don't really say, here's what I can do for you. They attack the other side, and then you vote you vote me in because I'm attacking the other person and I'm making them look terrible. So most people don't watch because it is so negative in that sense. And again, you could see it based on apathy. We just don't pay attention as much. But again, they do respond to some degree. That's why they don't panic as much as we do. Like Black Lives Matter movement, gun control rights, all these things that have happened in the past 10 years, Congress doesn't really pay attention to that much. The president tries to pay attention, but Congress is really the ones who write those laws. So it's just something to think about. So I'm going to play this video of Trump's numbers of his first years in office, just to get you an idea of this. You can go and watch. I think there's Obama numbers as well, but Trump's our current president. So it's 6 minutes and 35 seconds. Here we go. I guess not. Okay, so the president and the press. We're going to talk about how their relationship is. I kind of already did this one already. You could see here with the coronavirus, Trump's up here with Pence. There's Dr. Fauci. I don't see Deborah Dr. Bricks. I don't think that's her back here. She wears the scarf usually. Here's Obama with the press. You can see this is a big deal. This is where you get information from your public servant, from your president. This is a friend of mine, Peter Alexander. He's the White House correspondent for NBC News. We'll talk about him later in the semester, but again, they spar. He has called him out. He's called him out. You could see the sparring happening more and more. But the media is supposed to serve as an intermediary between us and our politics. It doesn't always verify facts, and that's why Trump claims fake news. But again, on the other hand, Trump's the same way. According to the Washington Post, Trump's lied or misleading facts 20,000 plus times in his 4 years in office. And again, we already know that there's a left swing to the news outlets, where there's books called Left Turn by a UCLA professor, which is a really interesting one because it gives you a test, tells you where the outlets are based on their headlines for their articles that they put out. So it's really interesting. And then the intermediary for the president is the press secretary. They're the ones who are the go-between, the liaison between. And the current one is Kayleigh McEnany. I think that's how you say it. So she is the one, or the press secretary is the one that interacts with the media. They're the liaison. They're supposed to have daily press meetings. It doesn't always happen. There was one press secretary of the 4 that Trump has had who never had one for over a month. And they're dealing with the White House press corps, like my friend Peter Alexander from NBC. They're not a cabinet position, and they don't need Senate approval. So this is just appointee by the president. Here are the press secretaries under Trump: Sean Spicer, and it tells you how long he lasted. So he started right when Trump was inaugurated, and he ended, it looks like, not that long, 6 months. Sarah Sanders lasted almost 2 years. Stephanie Grisham is the one that never really had. She never had any press briefings, never. And Kayleigh is the current one right now. Okay? And again, they're the ones who are kind of the representative for the president. And you can see with press briefings here, let's look up here. You could see weekday briefing, weekend no briefing, and you could see a weekend on that. And you could see under Obama's, you could see a weekday briefing, all of these under Obama blue. And then you could see here, there's not much happening under Trump's 2018 time. Again, you're just seeing this. You can see each of these columns is a year, but they have it. So you're just seeing the numbers here, guys, lacking. The lifespan of press secretaries, you could see under that, the Spicer only lasted this many days, but Ari Fleischer for Bush, Gibbs for Obama. I mean, this is what's almost 3 years. So you're seeing the number of days. It's not always a long time, guys. So again, because again, it's just comparing Sean Spicer to the other ones. He lasted longer than these guys. So there you go. And the biasness, All Sides is a really good site to use. You could see left, kind of slanted left, centrist, slanted right, and solid right. And again, it doesn't really go over too much of what we really need to see in terms of what you should be watching or listening to. I would not pay attention to some of these in here, like the Blaze, the Daily Caller, Daily Mail, OAN, the National Review. All of these are not good. Fox News Opinion, that's up to you, but it's really going to be slanted right. Fox News Online is a little less slanted there. Same with CNN Opinion and CNN News. It's kind of the same thing with those. But I would stay away from BuzzFeed. I would stay away from, who's the other one there? The Jacobin, probably. HuffPost is more entertainment. Democracy Now! They might sound good, but be careful of those. I would best to go with mainstream, and they simplify themselves. They don't really go into too much depth. It's all turning into entertainment news, which is interesting. As you guys can see, that's kind of why it's overblown. And this is another site, Ads Font Media, and you could see where they put it. And again, what I like about this one, skews left, hyperpartisan, most extreme, and then reliability. You shouldn't go down to InfoWars at all. It's telling you not reliable down here, unreliable in this area down here. Daily Caller, all these things I already mentioned. I would not go to any of these. But again, you're seeing more and more what you should be targeting in terms of your media. Because if I'm a conservative and I'm only watching OAN, I'm only hearing extreme news. You're not hearing what other Americans believe in. You're not having those discussions. And the same thing goes if you're watching Occupy Democrats. You're only hearing skewed news from the left. So this is what our country has gone through. And because of the rise of cable news in 1990s, we've now hearing their opinions. So what you're doing is watching these shows, you being Americans in general, you're watching these shows and they're just reinforcing your opinion or giving you what to say instead of you forming it yourself based on facts. So it's something interesting to look at. And you could see from the University of Missouri when they did this poll, You can see most trusted versus least trusted. So these are all the least trusted ones, including Trump, Yahoo, which is interesting, The Blaze, Fox is on this list, Rush Limbaugh, ABC, which would be, you think would be a good one, and NBC and CBS are all kind of neutralish. I would definitely work with them, but then you can see USA Today is one that I use, at least newspaper-wise. New York Times is kind of America's newspaper, even though Trump calls it fake news constantly. The Post, they brought down the Watergate scandal and the Pentagon Papers issues. Associated Press, these are really good ones. I even use BBC and The Guardian a lot because they're not American newspapers. They're not biased. That's why I'm trying to get an outside perspective from it. So again, it's something to think about in terms of here's newspapers, the most trusted. A lot of people are saying that you should go to your local newspaper for best stories. But again, the decline of newspapers is fastly going away with our social media that we have today. And then you can see here's the network host that we the most trusted and the least trusted. Chris Wallace is the one who's making a lot of headways. He's doing the first debate coming up here. But again, a lot of these names you should recognize. You can see the least trusted is Sean Hannity. Look at Rachel Maddow. They've compete. Don Lemon. These are big ones. Chris Matthews. Tucker Carlson again. Laura Ingraham. She's gotten in hot water before. And even Anderson Cooper, 19 here. And Anderson Cooper, 29 here. So he's on both the lists. So you're just seeing who we trust and who we do not trust. Again, look, local newspapers. Like I said before, they're more trusted than everything else. My advice to you is to go with those, or find a news wire like AP or Reuters, and you get here's the facts that you're looking at on your phone, and then now you get to form your opinion based on your ideology instead of going to somebody who's going to spoon feed you an opinion. Try to form your own and see if you can be. I can't force you to be moderate. You pick what you want to do, but again, it gives you that more of a balance. So then, therefore, partisanship gets less and less over time instead of more and more. And they're saying this Morning Consult says that the Republicans are driving the erosion of media credibility. You can see here among all adults, kind of what we trust. It says share of adults who find the news outlet credible. You can see it's kind of grouped together. Democrats all grouped except for Fox News. And then here's Fox News on the Republicans, and look at all the other ones, guys. So Trump has done some damage here. Maybe he's not the first one to do it, but he's the one who's made it mainstream because let's see, Mitt Romney ran against Obama in 2012, and I didn't hear him saying fake news. It seems like once you did that, the media would destroy you. And even though Trump did that to the media, he won. So now he feels vindicated, and he feels he needs to do that all the time because that won him the first election. So you're just seeing, again, stuff. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but you're seeing that the Republicans only believe in Fox News, and that's a scary thought that you're only getting your news from one source. So why does Trump refer to the news media, it says new media, as fake or the enemy of the people? And you can see some of his tweets here, guys. So they got the fake news media, CNN, cold, but what about NBC? They're all failing. He just destroys them all. Why do you think he does this, guys? Because he wants you to, if you destroy the watchdog, you skip the watchdog and go right to him. And if Fox News is his watchdog and he says Fox News is great, whatever Fox News says, then you listen to, so then everything else is discounted except for his word. He does nothing wrong in the eyes of Republicans. And that's, again, the scary thought that they're not balancing their views. It helps Trump message get to the masses and creates a credibility issue with the media, but also himself. Because now liberals are looking at, he destroys everything that no one agrees with, so therefore I'm not going to vote. And then the most important voters are not really the liberals and the conservatives, it's the moderates. It's the one in the middle that haven't chose yet. And if they see Trump's volatility here with destroying stuff, especially the idea of freedom of press, freedom of speech, it sounds that way when he's calling them fake news, boom, he might lose the next election as a result, or any president could do that. And you're just seeing other ones where he calls them the enemy of the people. He's calling our press the enemy of the people, but yet the Russians who want to destroy us, or the Chinese who want to destroy us capitalistically, or the North Koreans who have already said they're going to nuke us, he never calls them the enemy of the people. It's interesting to see that. I don't know if you're alarmed at all by that. All right, the end of the end. Here we go. So last part is understanding it. What's the role of presidential power here as well? You could see widening gender gap on size and scope of government. You can see women, the widening gap here, but men have always had that gap. Between bigger services, men don't want it. They want smaller government, fewer service, but now women are the ones that want the more services. So again, this is kind of what we're just looking at this in general as we speak through this. So how is the institution of the presidency undemocratic? So you can see here, preference for same party control versus divided government. This is a cool Gallup poll. It's saying if your party's in power, you want it to have control, but when your party is not in control, you want it to be divided. This is how we think. We think when our party's in power, this is what I dislike about political parties, and I totally agree with James Madison, is that if I'm a Republican, Trump can do anything he wants. He can become a dictator. I'm happy. But when I'm a liberal, I hate it. And then if Biden becomes, oh, Biden can do anything he wants, I don't care, I won. That's a wrong way to look at it. It's America first, then political parties. But yet it seems that we're doing it the other way. So how is it undemocratic? They're not elected directly from us. It's the Electoral College that takes over. The divided government leads to too many checks and balances. It takes forever, and all they do is complain about it, and especially now on social media. If we have national challenges, what are some of our challenges today? Climate change, wars in other countries. We don't really talk about those as much. We're spending lots and lots of money on that. And eventually our future climate change is going to cause real problems here in 20, 30, 40, 50 years for our kids. So we don't really talk about that stuff. One side does, but the other side doesn't come to the table on that. How does the presidency increase or decrease the scope of government? This is simple. It depends on the president. Look at the growth of spending, even to the point that Trump is spending as much, if not as more than Obama has because of the coronavirus. But he's spending the money like he's a Democrat. This is really interesting. I'm surprised that the Republicans haven't called him out on this. So a liberal usually supports increased role in government because they want to help out people. So they raise taxes and they help out the middle class and the poor, not as much the rich. They want to tax the rich. But the other side of it, the conservatives usually want to reduce the size of government. And so a president will do that. So Trump has gotten rid of a lot of regulations, and he helps out his elitist friends who own corporations and businesses. And he wants to help them and help them grow. So it's how they spend. It's their domestic policy. Trump got us out of the Paris Climate Accords. He doesn't want to spend anything on climate change. He wants those companies to make money even though they pollute. That's just how it's done. And you can see the rise of the GDP. Again, look at Obama versus Trump. So you can't blame Trump completely, but they get the blame as a result of this. So growth and forecast of U.S. national debt in relation to the GDP. You can see the percentage, and it's going to go up by 2022 for whatever president's going to be there. And no one's doing anything about it. So we want a strong president. We also fear one. That's kind of a conundrum, cognitive dissonance, right? We have safety and checks and balances, but they're not working. So what do? We're going to have to flip the Senate in order to, if Trump wins and he doesn't have either house, it's going to be hell for him for the next 4 years. But he's going to have executive order after executive order. Something to think about. What happens when government's divided? The government shuts down, policy gridlock, hyperpluralism, crazy stuff like that. I'm just going to give you some charts to finish out on the day. This is the control of the Senate from 1855 to 2021. Because again, it continues on here. The party in the White House is in the middle, so you can see Trump is here. This is Obama. This is the House. I'm sorry, this is the Senate. Okay, this is the House. So they flipped the House here. The Senate could flip. We're having another election here, but you're seeing the percentage of seats. Look at the percentage of seats in the 1930s. Percentage of seats that they have here. So it's really close here on both ends. But again, I just wanted to show you something like this. This is divided government. Look at ever since 1969 when I was born, we've been divided, meaning this does not happen very often when it's unified, all colors. It happened here under Bush. It happened for one term for Obama. It happened one time for Trump. I don't think I got to add him there. There's Trump, and now it's divided. So you guys are seeing it. I'm just extending this as well. And I want to show you that's the era of divided government. And then one of my simplest and most favorite one here, this is what pisses off a lot of people. When I taught class here in 2015, and I said, look at the way America votes for our president, Democratic versus Republican control of the White House. This is Obama, this is Bush, this is Clinton, this is Bush and Reagan, this is Carter and Nixon, and all the way back to LBJ and Kennedy. But what happens? We usually recently the trend is we give 8 years in office and then we flip. Okay, Obama got 8. Clinton lost and Trump won. So my prediction was that Trump was going to win the election. He did. Now, because of this trend, my prediction again in 2020 or start in 2021, is that Trump will win again, because this is how America votes. And he's done many things wrong, or many things out of norm that a president normally does, but that's because that's Trump. This is how he's lived his life, and we elected him, whether or not you did or your parents did. We elected him in office. Electoral College picked him. I think he's going to win because of that, even though he's done all these crazy things that are out of norm. So let's see what happens in about 40 days from now. These are just key moments leading up to the $20 trillion debt. Look, you can see Obama's 8 years, $8.59 trillion, and Trump's already added almost $5 trillion, guys. This is scary. Okay, conservative president, not acting conservative, not cutting stuff as much as he should have. But again, even Bush added 5.85 trillion. So it's becoming crazier and crazier. Trump should be on par to almost match Obama. Lastly, the president and the scope of government. Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive. And you can see what made these noteworthy presidents is kind of the questions we're looking at. Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive, changed things up. He had the square deal to protect the masses, the middle class poor. He had the Roosevelt corollary where he said, you can't keep your hands off South America. It's our area. We will help them out. Woodrow Wilson's 14-point plans for World War II about diplomacy. He was the president during a wartime. FDR, my God, you want to talk about crazy events? The Great Depression, the New Deal trying to help out, New Deal 1 and 2, packing SCOTUS possibly to help out his New Deal stuff, and then World War II itself until he died. So you can see it depends on, you're ideologically conservative or you're operational liberal. It's the idea of like how you present them as a leader. You can see Teddy Roosevelt with the new diplomacy, the Roosevelt corollary. You can see Woodrow Wilson's 14-point plan, but these are just examples of it. And then FDR's crazy timeline for his 12.1 years in office, or 4 terms he was elected to. So you can see that presidents, it really depends on who they are and what's happening in the world for what a president actually, how they respond to it. That's where we're going to leave it out for today, guys. We are officially done with chapter 12. Congratulations. I will see you on the next one. You take care.